Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa, our daily look at news from across the continent. Coming up, DR Congo and Rwanda sign a deal to end months of fighting between Congolese troops and rebels in eastern DRC. An agreement reached with the mediation of the East African community, but it hinges on the withdrawal of M23 rebels from occupied areas. Rights groups in Mauritius raise the alarm over a growing climate of repression against government critics. We'll be reporting from the capital Port-Louis after an arrest earlier this month of anti-corruption activist Bruno Lorette over drugs charges that he says are fabricated. And a climate strategy for the courageous. We take a look at cycle paths in Cairo, in the heart of the bustling capital, where even walking can be a challenge, not one for the faint-hearted. Good to have you along with us here on France 24. I'm James Mulholland. First up, Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have signed a deal aimed at ending months of fighting between Congolese soldiers and M23 rebels in eastern DRC. The agreement was reached after talks in the Angolan capital Luanda. Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi and Rwanda's Foreign Minister Vincent Biruta said it would come into force by Friday evening. The deal was agreed with mediation from the East African community. From Nairobi, France 24's Bastien Renouy has the latest.
This agreement was signed by DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi and by Rwandan Foreign Minister Vincent Biruta. According to the documents I've been able to read, it's clear the M23 has to cease fire on Friday at 6 p.m. local time. But how will they implement this agreement? It's difficult to say for now because no member of the M23 was part of the negotiations in Rwanda, and we don't know if they have agreed to cease fire so far. We know that DRC and the United States have been accusing Rwanda of supporting the rebels during the past months, an information that Kigali has strongly denied. But we know that according to former Kenyan president and current East African Community peace envoy Uhuru Kenyatta, President Kagame agreed last Friday to urge the M23 to cease fire. So will they listen to Paul Kagame or not? It's impossible to say for now. What will happen if they do not cease fire? It's clear. The East African force will be able to attack the M23 position to retake towns and villages that are under the control of the armed group. The goal is to ensure peace, stability and security for the civilians living there. 900 soldiers from Kenya are being deployed in Goma, and they will soon be joined by Ugandan, Burundian and South Sudanese troops.
Bastien Renouy in Nairobi there. Now to Mauritius, where rights groups have warned of a growing climate of repression against government critics. Earlier this month, anti-corruption activist Bruno Lorette was arrested at his home near the capital Port-Louis. Police said they found 40 kilograms of hashish in his possession, but he says it was all made up. This report from our correspondent Abdullah Irali with Caroline Lambolet.
Just 3 weeks ago, Bruno Lorette was rallying demonstrators over the murder of an electoral official. An official who was planning to lodge corruption charges against the country's prime minister. Shortly after, the anti-corruption activist was arrested with 46 kilos of hashish in his car. He says it was a setup.
We are attaching legitimate weight to what Mr. Bruno Lorette is saying. Since day one, he has been claiming drugs have been planted by the police in his car.
Police have not responded to France 24's requests for comment. On the day of Lorette's arrest, a spokesperson for police had urged people not to pin faith in rumors. But several groups have been raising the alarm bell about what they see as a worrying trend.
We've been seeing an erosion of the public's trust in key institutions, such as the police and the Anti-Corruption Commission. It seems to me that we're seeing too many coincidences these days. Everything is pointing to attempts at intimidation.
This week, a journalist at L'Express newspaper was summoned to police over defamation charges involving Prime Minister Pravin Jugnauth. Separately, the Prime Minister has been piling pressure on another journalist at Radio Plus. The outlet has published a series of reports criticizing the authorities. The journalist says he's still receiving threats on social media, despite having complained to the police.
Nothing has been done. I'm afraid for my safety. My family is also afraid for its safety. I'm worried that they will fabricate false charges and use them against me.
As the situation escalates, opposition parties have been uniting ranks and trying to shore up support. The main opposition party holding a rally in Saint-Pierre, a bastion of support for the Prime Minister, to condemn a series of incidents that are still unresolved. Among them, the murder of the electoral official, which Bruno Lorette had denounced.
Time now to take a look at some other stories making headlines across the continent. In Malawi, the stepson of the former president, Peter Mutharika, has been arrested in connection with the discovery of a mass grave last month. Police said there was overwhelming evidence linking Tadikira Mafubza to the incident. The grave, discovered in the northern town of Zimba, contained around 30 bodies of suspected Ethiopian migrants. Authorities in Namibia's capital, Windhoek, have taken down a colonial-era statue that paid tribute to a German army commissioner, Kurt von François. He's been credited with the founding of the capital, but several historians and campaigners dispute this. The statue was relocated to Windhoek City Museum, where it will be accompanied by an explanation of the historical context of Germany's colonial rule from 1884 to 1915. And Nigeria has launched new banknotes in a bid to tackle counterfeiting and corruption, as well as the financing of jihadist groups. The denominations of 200, 500 and 1,000 naira, the latter worth just over €2, will also drive economic growth and help to curb inflation, according to the central bank. Next to Tunisia, where the French language appears to be losing its appeal among the youth, at least in the classroom. In final high school exams, nearly 70% of students get below average scores. Several factors are at play, including a suffering public education system, curriculum changes and overworked teachers. But also, young people are turning more to English, as our team on the ground reports.
At the Tunis branch of the Mortimer Club, an international chain of language schools, children recite English while playing. Nasreen enrolled her 7-year-old son Aziz.
In his school there's English, but it's not enough. That's why we wanted to encourage it and boost those hours with another club.
In Tunisia, even if French remains the official second language, many parents are increasingly aware that their children also need to speak English or risk being left out.
What's increased the need to learn English? It's opening up, the social networks, TV series, American productions. Today, English is becoming essential.
Students also want to learn English for professional opportunities abroad.
But this is your unique LinkedIn profile.
Like in this training center for tech skills, where digital terms need to be in English.
When we talk about web development or digital marketing, they're based on English, and when they're technical words in English, we can't translate them into French.
The training aims to prepare future professionals for work, and the center claims that 60% of its students find employment afterwards. Yasmin is an Instagrammer who makes content in Arabic and English, a strategic choice to grow her audience.
This means I can reach a bigger audience. I already have an audience in Algeria, Morocco, France, and I think English is the language which speaks to the whole world.
To reach other tourism markets, this multilingual guide has also decided to create immersive tours of Tunisian archaeological sites in English.
With around 180 degrees, how big this basilica is. Tout ça, c'est en anglais.
All this is in English, much more than other languages, because it turns out that the English-speaking world is what works best in the media.
At the International French-Speaking Summit in Tunisia this year, Emmanuel Macron said he was aware of the decline of French in some North African countries in favor of other languages. He called on the French-speaking world to do more to promote French.
Next up to Egypt, and on the heels of the COP27 conference, here's one for the bravest of the climate conscious. The capital, Cairo, now has 2 kilometers worth of bike lanes right in the heart of the vibrant but chaotic city. It's a courageous climate strategy designed to reduce vehicle emissions, and it's just the beginning, with plans to more than double the network. Caroline Lamberley has this.
Cairo can be challenging for pedestrians, not to mention cyclists. Now, it boasts several cycling lanes and a public bike-sharing system.
This is a great project, and I'm proud to see this in Egypt. I saw it in the US a few years ago and dreamt of seeing it back home too.
We are looking to use clean and green energy instead of using public transportation and cars, which produce emissions, and to introduce the culture of biking to Egypt.
The new cycling lanes stretch over 2 kilometers in downtown Cairo. The city is infamous for its traffic and urban chaos. People can now also rent bikes to navigate the busy streets.
People now use the service via prepaid cards, but eventually, when the system will be fully functional, people will be able to access it through a mobile application and take a bicycle using Bluetooth. You can move with it anywhere you want. It will be easier for users generally.
The transportation sector in Egypt is a major contributor to carbon emissions. Private vehicles are often the main way people get around, given the lack of adequate public transport. The Egyptian authorities have launched several mega projects, including new metro lines, a monorail, and a high-speed train, in a bid to lower congestion in the capital.
Finally, in news from the World Cup in Qatar, Morocco put in a strong performance on Wednesday to hold Croatia to a 0-0 draw. The Atlas Lions reined in Croatia captain Luka Modric in their Group F opener. Buoyed on by their boisterous fans, Morocco hassled the 2018 World Cup finalists all the way to the final whistle to secure a point. Here's some of what they had to say after.
Morocco had a good game. I hope, and God willing, we will win in this group stage.
Our players played very well. We hoped until the last minute that the score would stay 0-0, because really, they played well. Their defense was solid, they didn't have many chances, but it still went well. We wish them good luck for the next one.
And that's it from all of us here at Eye on Africa. Do stay tuned to France 24. More news coming up in just a moment.
Special events. The Titans will clash in Qatar. The world's best players battle for the World Cup. From November 20th through December 18th. Don't miss World Cup news daily on France 24 and France24.com.